2018 North American International Auto Show, checking out the all-new Nissan Kicks. The Kicks is Nissan's entry into, I guess, subcompact SUV market. And this is probably a replacement for the Rogue, an SUV that didn't really sell well for Nissan, although it had a unique design. This seems like a more acceptable design. And as we walk around, we notice how high it is, just raised off the ground, thanks to the 17-inch wheels we have here, as well as the deep wheel wells. This actually looks like an SUV compared to a lot of products that claim they're SUVs or crossovers. We have a nice big black grille right in the middle with chrome around the outer edge. A big Nissan logo. LEDs that run along the inside of the headlamps. Although it's not available on base model, as you can see over there. And fog lights down here. Projection beam headlamps. This is the mirror. As you can see, it has 360-degree cameras. As we step inside, we're pretty much in the top of the line model, which is why we have so much leather. You have stitched seating here. Sunshade with an extension for, the side. Essentially, you would move it to the side and that would protect you from the sun. A pretty big digital display inside the gauge cluster. That's for the trip meter. There's a button here for that, so I guess it's not controllable through this. Now, as you can see, we have an all-digital tachometer with a fuel gauge. The tachometer gauge reading the fuel range right in the middle. Let's see what kind of information we can get through this. So we have the audio, we have the average fuel economy. It's very easy to read. I like how large it is, how large the font is as well. Very cool. And here we have a touchscreen, as we would in other Infiniti products, in other Nissan products. Can't believe I got that wrong. Connections, you have Wi-Fi, you have USB, and you have Bluetooth. Over here you have the climate controls. It's not dual zone, which is slightly unusual on this trim level, but I mean, this is a subcompact vehicle and you don't really expect to get that in this class. But these dials feel nice. They have a nice finish to them, and I appreciate how the start-stop button is actually close to the shifter. Very useful for a one-hand operation without having to move your hand. You have two cup holders over here. You have some storage space here for probably your cell phone, and that storage compartment back there is not exactly for you. It might be more for rear seat passengers. Your little storage space here as well, and there's an armrest for the driver. There's no storage compartment, which is a bit unusual, and it's especially unusual for the front seat passenger to not have an armrest to rest his or her arm on throughout their journey. But regardless, as I mentioned, the driver does have his armrest, so it's great if you're going to be driving this mostly by yourself, or if your front passenger doesn't really care for the armrest that I'm making such a big deal about. As we get to the back seat, decent amount of legroom, I'm not gonna lie, considering the size of the vehicle. Like I mentioned, here is the storage compartment for the rear seat passenger. You can probably store your cell phones in there and have it connected to the two USB ports above it. There is no armrest back here for rear seat passengers, which actually leaves the question, where exactly are the cup holders for rear seat passengers? We have two pockets over here on the door. It's hard to see. There we go. So we have two cup holders or pockets that seem to resemble cup holders, but might be kind of hard to get your drink in and out of these pockets, at least without scratching it up against the seat or spilling your drink in the process. But you have 2 pockets over here to store books or an iPad. As we get to the back, I'm just gonna pop the trunk. It's manual trunk release as expected. And the trunk is actually pretty tall. It's hard for you to get an idea in the camera, but it's actually, you'll be able to probably fit 2 medium-sized suitcases in here, as well as maybe 1 or 2 backpacks. You have grocery hooks over here for grocery bags, etc. And the seats, of course, are full flat, 60/40. Now let's look at the design back here. As you can see, we have these huge taillights. Actually, they're pretty reminiscent of the Murano and the Rogue, more so the Murano, just in how they're shaped. There are no LEDs in here, but I definitely appreciate this blurred effect that we have on the top end of the tail lamp cluster. This is the SR trim level. This has been a look at the all-new Nissan Kicks at the North American International Auto Show in Detroit.